Welcome to the What Now podcast, where we document our journey through chiropractic. Our goal is to give you, the new chiropractor, our firsthand experience in running a principled, cash-based practice right out of school. Join us as we bring you real perspective, lessons learned, and the leading names in the profession as we build the practices of our dreams. Yo, everybody. What is up? Welcome back to another episode of the What Now podcast. Spencer and Zach are back on a Dolo cast because we know it's your favorite. What's up, guys?
What it do? What it do? Boo boo. Back. Somewhat tan, no longer sunburnt, which is great. Post Murph, post Memorial Day, post honeymoon, post wedding, ready to roll, baby. Ready to
All right.
roll.
Speaking of post, real quick, for some housekeeping rules, Zach and I have been talking about this Ryan Ryder episode, and my lovely wife, who listens to my show, or listens to our show, thanks for listening and supporting. Kate told me that we never posted the Ryan Ryder episode, so post that will go out as well today, right after we record this. So be on the lookout for Ryan. It'll be a little out of order, but that's what you get for self-producing a show. So if anybody wants to produce our podcast for us, if you know how to grow a podcast, and if you want to be on the tech side of things, hit us up, send us your CV and your resume with a cover letter as to why you'd be a good fit. But
Yeah.
anyway, Zach, what's up, man? Tell us about your wedding. And while I was there, it was great. And tell us a little bit about the honeymoon.
Yeah. I mean, I won't share too much. Spencer, you were one of the MVPs of the wedding. Of the one mishap. We honestly had a perfect day. We were blessed. Perfect weather. Had all of our best friends with us. And I had one real I don't want to say direction, but one thing that I really had to do on the day of the wedding, other than like be there, and that was to remember my vow book, which is pretty important on your wedding day. And even saw Morgan like that morning, and she was like, "Do you have your vow book?" And I was like, "Yep, it's right there." And then we're like 15 minutes into the Uber ride, and I'm like going through with a few of my groomsmen like our itinerary, and it was like, and wife and husband read their vows together, and I was like, "Ah, crap, I left that." Um, and so that was probably the most stressful part of the whole day, was wondering, are we going to be able to get the vow book, this and that. And Spencer and Caitlin came in the clutch, MVPs, and then he even helped me get ready, even with a clip-on bow tie and all that stuff. It was still a little complicated for a simple man like myself.
That's right.
But no, it was a really great day. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Yeah, that's my high etiquette coming into play. If you it's where in Louisiana, actually, we always wear tuxedos. And so I've put on a lot of pair of suspenders in my lifetime. That's a
Yeah,
joke.
I
But
was going to say that I'm not sure if he's being serious or not.
hey, but I just want to talk a little bit about how awesome our experience before your wedding was. Just to give everybody a little update, if you follow Zach and I, you saw that we were at the Mothership Comedy Club, and this is
Yeah.
the power of optimism and the
Yep.
power of, let's just see,
And don't forget the power of kolaches.
power of kolaches. Yeah. Um, so
Wednesday was honestly an awesome day.
it was such a day. So I guess this will be more of like a social update for Zach and I rather than a
Yeah.
business thing, but we'll talk about it in a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, Zach and I, we left on Wednesday. Zach picked me up after finishing up some adjusting on Wednesday afternoon, and we all went to Austin together, me and one of Zach's friends from Maryland. And we were like, let's just see if we can get into Joe Rogan's like random. So Joe Rogan like put out a thing saying like, oh, hey, I'm doing a comedy show in Austin, and it like sold out super fast. We're like, all right, let's go see if we can get in the standby line. And maybe the internet cut out.
We did. We got in the standby line.
Yeah.
And the crazy part about it is the show starts at 7. And we got to Spencer around like 1:30. It's like a 3.5 hour drive. And we're kind of driving, if you know anything about like 35 going down to Waco. It's a pretty straight shot, but I keep looking at the GPS, and the GPS is getting longer and longer. So like our initial ETA is like 5:15. The show's at 7. Our Airbnb is like a half hour away from the venue. And we're like, man, it's gonna be tight just to get in the standby line. And then like our ETA goes to 5:30, 5:45. and we're getting pretty bummed, but we're passing through West Texas.
That's
Not
right.
not like Texas,
Not the
like not
western
the
part of
west, yeah,
Texas,
not the western
down
part, but
West
the
Texas.
town West Texas, which is known for their kolaches. And we're all three former Husky dudes, which we had a lot of fun. We probably riffed on that for like an hour. But uh, so we stopped for kolaches. We're like, if we're going to the comedy store, we probably won't have time for dinner. Um, and so we stop, and somehow our ETA when we stop for kolaches was 5:45. We get back in the car, start driving, and our ETA goes back to 5:15, which made zero sense, but worked out for the better somehow.
Yeah.
And so we get down there, we Uber over real quick to the comedy store.
We
We
almost
get
get in a wreck twice in the Uber.
in the Uber, which
Yeah.
was the most wild Uber I've ever. I've never. I rarely. This sounds bad, but I rarely put my seatbelt on in the back seat of any car. Um, I don't know why, but that's just something I do. And this was one of those times where I quickly put on the seatbelt, like almost by the time the guy pulled out of the neighborhood. Anyways, so we get there, we get in the standby line, and we're like eighth or ninth. So three of us, so we're like eight, nine, and 10 spots. Um, and we're sitting there. They make you wait in the bar for like a half hour. Once the show starts, you have to wait a half hour, and then just start calling names from this little bar. And they get to the people in front of us, and we're like, all right, don't be done, don't be done. They're like, Zach, party of three, and we're like, yeah. And everyone in the bar was like, what's wrong with these three? Like, it's just a comedy show. But no one knows what we had to go through to get there.
That's
Uh,
right. But now you
and
do.
and the best part is like with the way they announce the shows at the mothership is they just say like the show is just called Joe Rogan and Friends, and you don't know who the friends are. So it could be like some randoms that like I'm sure would have been funny, but you know, we walk in there and I'm like waiting for Spencer and Alex to get their tickets, and I asked the guy, I'm like, am I able to ask who's performing, and are you able to tell me? He's like, yeah, it's Theo Vaughn is on stage right now, and I'm like, what? So just like $45 or whatever the ticket was, we go see Theo Vaughn, Ron White, who's like a legend, this guy Brian Simpson who murdered, and then we got to listen to like an hour of Rogan just light it up, and it was, I mean, on top of the wedding was like a big highlight of the
Yeah.
trip down to Austin.
It was
It
like
was
a
really
once in a
awesome.
lifetime experience.
Yeah,
Not because it's different if you're like, okay, I'm buying tickets and I'm going to this thing and I know
hmm
I'm going there. And that's an awesome experience. But like to just like randomly be like, you know what? We're gonna just shoot for it and we're gonna be optimistic about it. And
yeah,
either way, whatever happens, it's gonna work out in our
yeah,
favor. That was awesome. It was like a great power of optimism slash manifesting experience right there. So that was great.
yeah. It
But
was super cool.
so anyway, well, that's what has happened to us since the last episode. Um, but anyway, yeah. So let's start. We were talking a little bit before we started recording, as we always do, about just like what it's like to take 2 weeks off, really, and be removed from your practice for like really your wedding, which is an awesome time. But so, how are you feeling coming off of like your almost 2 week hiatus?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like waking up this morning felt weird. I mean, one, there was like a huge storm in Dallas. So I was like, well, this kind of, I was like all ready to be like, wake up at 6 a.m., be at the gym by 7. And then Texas is like, and,
Nah,
universe is like, you take a little bit more rest, buddy. So huge storm, power was out at the gym. So I was like, I'll just stay in bed. Morgan and I had like our first slow morning together, which will be our Tuesdays here pretty soon. Now that we're like I'm done teaching at VoloFit. Once I'm done with my men's group, like that'll just be our Tuesday mornings, which was really cool to kind of see that as our future. Just making breakfast together, uh, enjoying some coffee, getting in the word together. Um, but taking 2 weeks off was scary, right? Like there were some moments. There was a day, I don't know, Wednesday or Thursday maybe on the honeymoon, so about a week ago. I was like, is there any money left in the bank account? Like, are we like,
dude, for
no, we're not
real.
making money. I mean, we are because like shout out auto debits, which definitely clutch and recurring revenue. But I was like, I'm gonna check the bank account, and this is either gonna throw me into a whole bunch of stress or just put my mind at ease. There was still plenty of money in the bank account. And I was like, heck yeah, great. And went back to drinking mango margaritas and chilling by the pool. Um, but no, I mean it felt really good. I thought it was gonna be a lot harder for me, honestly. Like I thought it was just gonna be like mind on the business 24/7, coming up with business ideas. But you have a couple of drinks by the pool, and it's like, I don't, not that I don't care, but I'm like, I don't mind.
It'll be back whenever
Yeah,
I get back.
it'll be okay
Still
as
gonna
long as
be
the
there.
tornado doesn't come through. And lo and behold, there's pretty close to a tornado down here today. I was like, man,
Yeah, I felt the same way. Really, I was like, man, I'm either gonna like tweak super hard, and really, dude, whenever we landed, I was like, it's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna relax, but in my relaxing time, I'm gonna get really clear on my vision, and I'm gonna really like go hard, and I'm gonna come back completely different. And I did sunburnt, and but that's really about it. I was like, like I'm just gonna totally relax. Like I'm gonna actually like step away and be away. And it gave me a lot of perspective as into, like we're gonna be doing this for a long time and we're
yeah,
just getting started.
yep,
And so, like, I mean, and especially because it's your honeymoon, like really you're just like focused on like your wife and like you're so grateful because like
hmm,
well for your wife it's really stressful for the
oh
wedding and
yeah,
there's so much planning and everything. And
yeah,
so shout out to our wives for hosting
wedding,
amazing weddings and stuff.
yeah,
Also for us, sorry,
yeah,
but
yeah. I mean, I mean, just from like a wedding perspective and owning a business, just like the thought. And Morgan was like, and I hope she doesn't mind me sharing this, but she was just like, I'm kind of anxious because like now on my lunch breaks, instead of meeting with this vendor or checking in on this or writing thank you cards or checking on RSVPs, like now I can like enjoy the gym or enjoy my break or like whatever it might be. But she's like, I'm a little anxious now that I like only get to focus on us, like the business, our dog, and like that hasn't really been her life in like the last year and a half, 2 years,
yeah,
even like because she was heavily involved with her sister's wedding. Um, and then we've did 29 on 29, and then so it's just like very like this is the first time since really we started dating where it's just like, oh, we get to focus on us two. Um, and that was a little anxious for both of us because like, do we need to do a marathon? Do we need, it's just like no, like we need to just like enjoy this time where we can hyper hyper speed our dreams and our visions and like really get those fine tuned now that we can fully focus on those. Um, and there were some tears of like I missed the honeymoon already, this and that. But it was going back to like getting off the plane in Mexico. I was like, oh crap, like we're doing this. Like this is awesome. Uh, Here we go. Like trip has already been paid for, all of that. So it's like nothing to worry about. Like once we get there, and it was awesome.
yeah. It's just really nice to like be like, wow, like our past selves took care of our future selves, and it's gonna be so nice. And I think it's gonna be the same way, like in 5 years when we
Mm,
come back and we reflect like on this time. Really like our first 2 years of startup, be like, wow, look at all this work that we put in. Like our past
yeah,
self, like really took care of our future self.
yeah. I
Um,
think it really puts into perspective in a whole different way, right? Like you and I have talked a lot about like planting seeds and like reaping the harvest later. Um, but I think at least for me, a lot of that was through like a marketing, like new patient acquisition
yeah,
type mindset. But now it's like, okay, like what can we do like between now and when we have our first kid or like move to our dream house or whatever that might be? Like, what are the seeds we need to plant now, both mentally and then also like from an action standpoint, like how much money do we need to be putting away? Like how do we spend our money together? How do we combine our bank accounts? How do we uh you know correctively or not correctively, that sounds like a weird word, but like in a loving relationship, like work together in a sense to
Mhm.
like towards our dreams and our goals. And we're in a different situation than you and Caitlin, but like we both own our own businesses. What does that look like as we move forward? Like we this was my first time going on a vacation since opening the office. I mean, I've taken days off, but that was for 29 out of 29 or the merit, like nothing where it's just like chill. And I was like, we need to do this more often. And we have a
Yeah.
vacation coming up in 2 weeks, but uh, that's a whole another topic.
Yeah, that's nice, dude. The vacation is crazy. Like that was like I really looked at it and that was like my first like vacation, not like, oh, the office is closed for a holiday and so I'm gonna go
Yeah.
somewhere and it's like with my family or like you know,
A
like
seminar.
a yeah, going somewhere for that is like purely just because, well, I guess it's not just because it's for our wedding, but like
Mhm.
purely like no other reason than it's like because we want to.
Yeah,
Um, that was awesome, dude. It's like way different perspective. So we're gonna try to do that at least once a year. Ideally, we would like to go twice a year.
yeah. We talked like twice a year, and it's interesting. I was actually looking through a feed on one of the chiropractic pages on Facebook. Someone had posed a question like, "How often do you take a vacation?"
Yeah.
And it was really interesting to see some of there's like the really tryhards that are like, when I walk into the office, it is a vacation, blah blah blah. I'm like, all right,
Yeah, because I love my job and
yeah,
I don't go to work a day. And
yeah. It's like, all right, well, good for you.
yeah,
Um, but it's like realizing in Europe, they're mandated. Like it's almost like a a law where you get 4 to 6 weeks vacation, and that's like very normal for them.
yeah,
That's like, dang. But just feeling so refreshed, like I had huge bags under my eyes. Like I wish I took like a before and after picture
yep,
of like what I look like maybe that Wednesday morning before we went down to Austin, and then like coming back on Saturday, like just huge bags under my eyes. I was probably averaging like poor quality 6 hours of sleep a night,
yep.
uh, and just to like unwind and just take care of me was just surreal and awesome, and like definitely need to do that like at least twice a year for sure.
Yeah, dude. I mean, the on the honeymoon, bro, the like, dude, I think I was clocking like 9.5 to like 11 hours of sleep, like a
Oh
night
yeah,
for a
yeah,
week straight. It was clutch, dude. It
yeah,
was so nice. It's like, man, I haven't slept this long since I was in high school. Like,
yeah. Like
and
my natural body would still wake up at 6:30, and I kind of go to the bathroom, like look at myself in the mirror, and then be like, all right, I'm going back to sleep, and like no alarm. It was man,
yeah, that was the same thing, dude. But like, I think Caitlin and I, like, dude, we would have dinner and then be like 8:30 sleep.
yeah, yeah,
And like wake up at 7 and be like,
yeah,
all right, great. And then we'll just like kind of putt around, go get breakfast.
yeah.
Like it was so nice.
Like no rush. Like there was never like we would have dinner reservations, but it was like 7 o'clock, and you're like Cancun, Playa Harris was hot.
Yeah.
Like it was like 92, 95 degrees outside. Like UV was a constant 9 to 11, which if you know anything about UVs, that's high. And so we were pretty much done by the pool by like 3, 4 o'clock. And so we would just kind of hang out. There was a really cool bar. We'd go get a drink, go to dinner. If the Mavs or Stars were on, we'd go maybe watch like a quarter or a period and be like 9 o'clock, passing out.
Yeah. How do you think that like really translates into your practice though? Like, you know, dude, I mean, like we do so much in our week and we try to pack in our week
Yeah.
and we like the weeks fly by, dude. Like it's already June. Like June 1st is this Saturday.
Yeah.
And like those weeks fly by, but yeah, like you spend a week in like on vacation with
Took
like
so
quote
long.
unquote nothing to do, but how much stuff did you actually do? Like you did so much, right? Like there was, I
Not
mean,
really.
like,
We didn't
no,
do like we didn't really we didn't do any excursions. We tried to go to like a sushi roll class, which was crazy. The class was like no reservation, get there at 2 o'clock. We get there at 1:45, like class is booked. We're like, nah, man.
Mm.
It's like the one thing we tried to do.
Yeah.
But
Okay, but like, okay, not necessarily how much did you, because really we didn't do that much on our honeymoon either. Like we just sat on the beach all the time. Like that was
yeah,
really it.
yeah,
But like how much time did you feel like you had? Like, dude, like those hours like were like long, dude. It's like, oh yeah, we're at a beach for like an hour and a half and it feels like a full day,
full day. Yeah.
right? And so like
Yeah.
that I think it really just goes to show on how much like non-essential busy work that like we get caught up in all the time.
Yeah.
Just like just like mulling around being like, oh, like looking at the schedule, like just being like what's going on right here, like how many
Mhm.
minutes do you spend a day like just like looking at your schedule being like
Yeah.
instead of like just
Like
being
it's
like, hey,
like looking
tell
at the
me what I need to
schedule, like looking at the day like the night before and being like, oh, I have 20 minutes here to get this done, or like,
do. Yeah,
you um, but I think that was a big thing going into it that Morgan and I we did talk quite a bit like vision and our goals, which was great. Never like super serious, like always at dinner, um, just kind of like where do we see ourselves in 3 years, those kind of things.
yeah,
Um, but I mean a big thing, and shout out Dr. Steph and Dr. Nikki on the 90-day sprint, but like I mean, one of my first calls with Nikki, she was like, "When's your like CEO admin time?" And I was like, "I try to do it after Friday's shift." She's like, "Do you ever get stuff done?" I was like, "No."
never.
Um, and so that's like a big thing. Like we're we go to Florida with Morgan's family in 2 weeks, and then after that, like I'm done working Tuesdays. Not done working, but like not gonna be seeing patients on
Yep.
Tuesdays. Um, and she was like, I gotta say this, it is not like throw on your flip flops and sit by the pool time, you
Yeah.
know, but it's like this is when you
Deep work.
respond to emails or follow up with like whatever like your CEO admin time that you're like trying to fit in. And I also realized too, just for our team, like they're trying to do admin stuff in between seeing patients. And it's like, nah, we gotta like be with our patients. Like I'm fully with them. Y'all gotta fully be with them. Like not trying to crank out like this week's social media or follow up with PI attorneys, like whatever it might be. Like we gotta be doing that like outside of patient hours.
Yep.
Um, and so that's a big thing I'm learning is like, how can I do less but do more at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, increasing like your productive hours.
Hmm.
Like it's so hard to get into a deep work cycle like out without 90 at least 90 minutes
Yeah.
of available time.
Like I really didn't have time. Maybe a few Saturdays, like post gym, I would like that's when I get a lot of my ideas.
Yep.
Um, but never, but then from there, it's like I didn't have the time the rest of the week to really, which sounds so crazy because people like might be listening or they're like, I work 60 hours a week, like, and I still, and it's like, it's just like deep work, like, especially, I don't mean to make excuses, but it's like the people that we're seeing right now, like, we're kind of building our community around, and like, I feel like there's like a really deep bond with them. And so
Yep.
it's a lot of give and take, energetically, um, where they're almost like family. And so it's like, I kind of leave sometimes and I'm like, man, that was a long day where like I just need to like kick my feet up when I get home, eat dinner, like just turn my brain off. Like I'm rarely ever like on the laptop when I get home.
Yeah, well, I think that, I mean, that's a really great way to create like a prison of a
Yeah.
practice, like a prison practice where it's like I'm always available all the time to everyone.
Yep.
I always will sacrifice myself like for everyone and all of those things. And I think that's one of the best mindset shifts for me, like working with Steph, is she's just like, okay, so like we're gonna do this in your business because what does it get you in your life, right? Like how
Hmm.
does it actually how do you build the practice of your dreams without sacrificing the things that you're building it for, the ones that
Hmm.
you're building it for? I mean, like that's been such a great eye-opening experience. Like, and
Sure.
what's really cool is that like everyone in the wealthy practitioner circle, they all are like that. Like
Yeah.
everybody is like I mean, Gabrielle and Trey, they just went to Italy, right? Like it's a lot of like, yeah, we're gonna work really hard, but we're also gonna enjoy the fruits of our labors, right?
Yeah.
Whereas then I
Yeah.
feel like in a lot of chiropractic circles, it's a lot of like, well, you're not a success unless you see more visits and you're open
Mhm.
more and you're
Yeah.
always available and all of those things. And it's great
Yeah.
to be open 6 days a week. And like if you're open 5 or 6 days a week, that's great. But like we're gonna actually cut off our whole Fridays. And then
Hmm.
I'm also going to stop being in the office on Thursday mornings.
Yeah.
And so I'll have four admin or three admin shifts, like one on Tuesday mornings when I do stuff like this, one on Thursday mornings where I'll have like my like by myself deep work time, and then one on
Hmm.
Fridays. And dude, like if you could imagine how much stuff you could get done in a full day on Friday, and then how much better could you take care of your people if all of the little tasks, following up on the emails, ordering things for the office, posting things on
Yeah.
social media, writing your weekly newsletter, scheduling meetings, doing catching up on notes, working on your systems. How
Yeah.
much better could you take care of the people in your office when you actually don't have other things to worry about and you come in and
Yeah.
they're the only thing you have to worry about?
Right. Right. And I think that's such a big point. And one thing we even noticed from a flow perspective, because I mean, even April, we were closed for the scale up event, closed for my bachelor party, um, and it like condensed our schedule, but we still saw the same amount of visits.
Yep.
And even Victoria, my one of my CAs, was like, I almost like it better when we're like condensed
Yep.
because it keeps us in flow and it keeps us in rhythm rather than, those random 20. I mean, even seeing 150 a week, like we'd still have like an hour in between
Yeah.
patients at points.
Dude, it's the
Uh,
same thing, bro. It's all depending on like how you set up your schedule.
yeah. Yeah. And so it's like, okay, how can we stay in flow? And I would notice I'm better table talk, better, you know, connecting with them when I was on that like condensed schedule rather
Yeah, dude,
than,
you're locked in. Like
yeah.
Logan says the same thing too. She's like, honestly, she's like, I like the days when we're super busy. Like, yeah, it's overwhelming, but it's only like sometimes it gets overwhelming and there's a lot going on, but it's only for 3 hours. And it's not
Yeah.
like it's start and stop and start
Yeah.
and stop and start
Yeah.
and stop. And I mean, dude, our numbers have like basically stayed the same over the past couple weeks. Um, but we have for the past like 6 weeks in a row have only been open 4 days a week.
Hmm.
And so, like, I mean, dude, the people can get in. Like, your practice will be okay.
Yeah. I think
Um,
that was like a big thing that Steph had mentioned to Morgan even before I had started, because Morgan coaches with Steph too, was like, there's no need to compare because I mean, we've been in like a maintenance phase in regards to our business, just because like even for me, I didn't realize how much I was concentrating and focusing on the wedding and getting married and those type of things. Um, but she's like, there's no need to compare like your maintenance phase to others like growth phase, and
yeah,
like that's where like whether you want to believe it or not, like that's where you're at. Um, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so it's like, oh, like it's really not. If we were to grow, how well would we have kept those patients, right?
yeah,
Like, what would the retention have been? What type of results would they have seen? Those type of things. So it's like, all right, well, now it's now we're out of that season. Let's put our pedal to the metal, put everything we've learned the last few months uh, into application and get into it. I
yeah.
think
We're
that's
about
what that's what's been the best thing about coming out of the honeymoon is like how motivated, but from a healthy standpoint,
yeah,
rather. And I think that's from a lot of the work with Matt and with Steph of like, don't chug it, right? Like kind of how we talked about one of our last episodes was like, don't try to do everything all at once. Like, and now I'm taking a bigger picture view of things of like, okay, like what really needs to get done? How soon does it need to get done? And how can I like do I don't get lost in the monotonous work just to be productive and feel like I'm doing things.
yeah. There's a huge difference between being busy and being productive, and that's like
Mhm.
kind of the next focus. In we're about to go through our next quote 90-day sprint, like of 90 days focus, June, July, August. How can we
Mhm.
dial it? And because, dude, in 90 days, you can like radically change your life. I mean, dude, if you look at Dan Martell and you look at his body, he's like, yeah, I just focused for 90 days. Now he's shredded to the
Yeah.
bone.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, for us husky guys that are out there that are like, oh man, I'm trying to get lean, it's like, really, are we being busy like with the things that we're
Yeah.
doing? Or are we actually being productive, right? You feel like, oh, I'm saying I'm dieting, but you're still eating bad foods, right? You're just eating less of the things that are making you
Right.
bad,
Right.
right? Same thing in the gym, right? Like, dude, 30 minutes of like really intense focus lifting versus 90 minutes of really intense focus lifting is way different,
Yeah.
right? Moving
I mean,
really
it's
intentionally.
I'm curious with you just on that like exercise. Like for me, I've noticed that now, especially doing the shred program, a lot of the workouts are like 40 to 50 minutes. But even then, like when it gets to that like 40, 50-minute time mark, I'm like, why am I still here? Like I feel like I've gotten what I've needed to do to get done. And obviously like go one more and get those extra reps in and everything. Um, but I'm curious for you, do you notice the same thing since being on a similar program and like your mindset is starting to shift?
I honestly always feel like I get better work in when I'm a little bit late to the gym because
Same.
my time is condensed. So
Yeah.
instead of me having, 75 minutes, I have 45 minutes to
Yep.
like to both to warm up, to cool down, to like get all of my lifts in. And honestly, I get all the volume work in. I get it all in. And
Mhm.
somehow I never skip a set. Somehow I always do it.
Yeah.
But the time that I spend on my phone or refilling my water bottle. But no, it's like, dude, I knock this out, I move to the next thing. I knock it out, I move to the
Mhm.
next thing. And I think we do that a lot in our business too, is like, we're like, oh man, like, like I'm not in any rush. And so I have all this time and I'll get it done later.
Yep.
And I'll save that for this time. When it's just better, you do just knock it out, get it done, move on. Right. Or
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm gonna work on this for a little bit, and then I'm gonna work on that for a little bit. And then you end up working on like a lot of things, not at all.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, case in point was this morning. I was like, oh, like no longer coaching at VolaFit, which I would coach Tuesdays at 8:15. There's no power hour, which is like a networking group that I used to be a big part of that I'm excited to get to be a part of again. Um, like we're not recording until 10:15. Like I can get to the gym at 7:30 and have 2.5 hours. And I was already catching myself like, oh, well, I can get there at 8 and have an hour. I get there at 8:30, have 45 minutes. And so it was just funny just seeing that like in my head, like my body almost knows like we don't need all that time
Yeah.
to be there. And then that's a big thing I'm trying to work on is like bridging the gap and work on my mindset is I'm very much if I don't have those 3 hours, I won't even like start to
Yeah.
work. Like I'll just kind of I'll vacuum, I'll like clean up around the office, I'll check voicemails rather than like, oh, I have an hour to bang out some marketing calendar, like some big picture things. But I in my head I'm like, well, it's not 3 hours of deep work, so I'm not going to get it done.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, like I'm saying, like when you're constricted on time, I think that's why it's actually better for us to have limited hours is because it fills your schedule more. Because then you stop wasting time with people on the table to try to quote like make them help them like get the value out of it. The
yeah,
value is in the adjustment and the way that you change their nervous system. The
yeah,
value is not how much you rub their shoulder or how much you say you talk to them about the supplements.
yeah,
They're there to get adjusted, whether you think that they are or not. They're there for chiropractic and they're
yeah.
there for your style of chiropractic. And so if you when you fill your schedule more, you actually do, you end up getting better results. You end up
Hmm.
because you're not wasting time, you're not doing too much. Because actually, I've thought about this too whenever we were condensing the schedule. How many times have you done an extra adjustment that puts them in over that threshold of over adjusting them? How many times after the second impulse or even just the first impulse that you deliver to the nervous system, how many times are they actually balanced yet you feel like they need more for in their visit
Yeah,
and you do an extra side posture because you're like, maybe
yeah.
that
I
was
have,
too short.
I have 20 minutes. Like sometimes it's like they were late when it was a like more blocked out schedule, and so they're like, well, no one else is here, so why am I not getting more time? Like it's like no, like it's the same. Not that it's the same adjustment. I'm still very much in agreement with Dr. Tulski. One of his like principles of like never adjust someone the same way more than 3 times over the course of their visits.
Yeah.
Um, that's very much how I feel. But anyways, like yeah, let them get adjusted and let their nervous system do the rest.
Yeah, I think that's the importance of like clear, objective, and care plan scheduling. You know,
Hmm.
like you have to have clear, objective measures to be like, hey, I'm going to check you, right? The importance of getting checked and not coming in to
Hmm.
get adjusted.
Yeah,
Um, and then
which
that
like
changes a lot of
it
things.
is really fun to like. I mean, explain that to patients. Like oh, like you're so close to being balanced. Like or like having to do stress tests because they do walk in on their 15th visit and their legs are balanced and turn the head to the right and be like, oh no, you are in fact not clear, but you know you're really close, and they're like, really? Like I've never heard a chiropractor talk like that. It's like always something I enjoy.
Yeah, right. It's just like, I mean, too much and too little
Yeah.
is the not the right amount, right? And so,
Yep.
I mean, I tell people all the time, like whenever I check them and I'm like, hey, you're clear, you don't need an adjustment today. And they're like, well, last time you adjusted me. It's like, yeah, okay, well, last time you weren't clear. And they're like,
Hmm.
I don't understand how I'm not clear. It's like, okay, well, it's like this. Let's just say that we fill up your car with gas and then you drive right down the block and then you're like, hey, I want to get filled up again.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, dude, you don't need any more gas. Like it's full.
Hmm.
Or, like really that would be like filling up your car with gas, putting the thing back in and be like, okay, actually I'm gonna fill it up even more. It would be worse. It would be a detriment, right? You're
Hmm.
already full. Things are good. Like it's time to
Yeah.
move on, right?
Yeah.
So it just kind of depends on what they need. But anyway, um,
How did we get there?
I don't know. That's how we always get. But dude, guys, thanks so much for listening. Really appreciate it. If you haven't checked out our last episode, the one about gardening your mind, I really think that that one was like a really like a heater.
Hmm.
It was really good. There's a lot of really powerful gems in there that we both dropped, and I think
Yeah.
that it was
I think
uh,
it
one
was
of
at
our
a
better
time
episodes.
one of our better episodes, and I think that'll be an episode you and I look back on in 90 days or 6 months and be like, oh, like that's why we're fueling our fire right now
Yeah,
because we were both feeling a big sense of transformation, both becoming husbands and stepping into the next phase of business ownership and those type of things.
yeah. Well, dude, I'm so glad to be on this journey with you. Super
Same to
proud
you,
of
brother.
everything, and congrats on your wedding. I'm glad that you enjoyed your honeymoon. It's good to be back, guys. Next week, hopefully, we're gonna have an awesome guest for you.
Mm-hmm.
Here in Texas, stay safe in the weather, but we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the What Now podcast. If you took something valuable away, feel free to share it with a friend, post it on your socials, or give us a 5-star review. We'll see y'all next time. Peace!